Hi, Professor Stan. This is Johnny. Today I'm going to go through the data analysis part of our group study. So, first of all, I'm going to state a change we just made based on your advice. So, we change our omitted variable bias into unemployment rate, which we think it can simultaneously affect the income of the people. So you can see the housing cost burden, which can represent the income of the people, and the unemployment rate, whether people get a job, is also a strong determinant that people are going to choose to get married. So, okay, data analysis. Here's the housing cost burden, and here's the median age of first marriage by sex in selected years from 1991 to 2016. I think I just showed those two slides in last video. So now I'm going to put our hypothesis to variable, housing cost burden, and the median age of Hong Kong people's first marriage into the R. So we get this scatter plot, which X equals to housing cost burden, and Y is the median age, the first marriage age. We can see it's quite correlated. So here's our regression table. The slope is 0.1473, and the is positive. So you can see here it's positive, and the p-value is 0.000, totally 7 O's and 483. So which is very small, smaller than 0.05, which shows this hypothesis is statistically significant, and the intercept is 28.4272. You can see also if we extend this curve, this line here, it will be 28.4. And here, let's move to the omitted variable bias unemployment rate. As we can see here, it's a downwards trend. I think that the unemployment rate is getting smaller and smaller as the time goes on. So here is the scatter graph we get from the R. Shows the relationship between the unemployment rate and the median age of people's first marriage age. So next step, we're going to put two independent variables together, which are housing cost burden and unemployment rate, into the R to see how those two independent variables are going to have a relationship with the first marriage age. So here's the result we get from the R. Now, when the two independent variable was put in, the p-value of the housing cost burden is still low, but a little bit higher than the previous one when it was put along. So it's 0.000362, smaller than 0.05, so it's still statistically significant. But when we see the unemployment rate here is 0.5, so this p-value is is greater than 0.05. So at this time, the unemployment rate is not that statistical significant here. So whether it's substantively significant, so we can see here it's you can see substantive significant. You can see here as the slope, as the unemployment rate goes down, but the people choose to get marriage earlier. So this, I think, from this unemployment rate and first marriage age, I cannot say it's substantive significant, because I would assume when having a job is a determinant for people to get married. So, but we can see here, the higher unemployment rate, the earlier people are going to get married. But here, the housing cost burden part, we can see it's quite significant. It's quite substantive significant, because as the housing cost burden increase, like in 1 unit, the first marriage age just increased like 0.2 years. I know the housing cost burden is a comparatively abstract concept, because it's not a single figure like age, like income. It's not a simple number. It's divided by it's divided by the housing price and the income of the household. But I can say this is still substantive significant. So here is the regression table we made by the Stargazer in R. So let's move to the residual part. So we can see we use x equals to housing cost burden and the y equals to residual. So the definition of the residual is the distance between the scatter point between the scatter point and the fitted line. So I'm sorry, not this graph. The scatter point of the scatter point and the fitted line. So we can see here it's a horizontal line. So we can say that the residuals in our hypothesis are not correlated with the housing cost burden. So here's our conclusion. I think our original hypothesis, I think it's statistically significant. P-value equals to a very small figure, which is smaller than 0.05. And it is also substantively significant with slope 0.1473. Also, an R square equals to 0.8451, so which means housing cost burden has 84% explanatory power of median marriage age in Hong Kong. So and also the slope of residual and the horizontal slope of residual and the housing cost burden is horizontal. So therefore, the residuals of housing cost burden is not related of the median marriage age in Hong Kong. We tackled our omitted variable bias, so we can see this result from our housing cost burden is still statistically significant after we put the unemployment rate as a independent variable into the R. The P is still smaller than 0.05, and the unemployment rate is not statistically significant because you can see it's 0.5059 is greater than 0.05. Also, the unemployment rate is not substantive significant. I think I just mentioned this before. So employment rate as a omit the variable bias can be tackled. So here are some limitations. We could not exclude the housing cost burden of the married couples. So for those who are already married, we shouldn't put them into our study range because we're trying to investigate the single people whether they are going to choose getting married. So, but we are using housing cost burden by the house price divided by the income of household. So the income of household here is an aggregate concept. So we cannot separate the single people's income and the married people's income and only investigate those people who are single. And also we could not exclude the possibility which people choose to rent a place for marriage or stay with parents after the marriage. For the cultural and the traditional aspect, the diminishing gender inequality are shifting the housing cost burden from male alone to both genders. Here's another one. Biological involvement may extend the age that the couple choose to give the first birth. So because baby birth giving is a strong determinant of marriage decision. Last one, I think it's not that strong limitation, but I think it still matters because the extended working hours may compress the likelihood people to find their ideal partners. Okay, that's everything. Thank you.